Hi, how you doing? Bruce here. Hope all is well. My class in the forest. It's Red Shirt Day. I hope it works out. Not 100% sure how it will work out, but it shows up well on the camera. I'm not 100%. But anyway, a lot of stuff going on in the world. A lot of stuff. And one of the things going on in the world, hang on, is this thing in Russia with that rather silly little man that has some strange ideas. It's unfortunate. But that'd try to bring it around to what I had been speaking about, which is some economics and some the idea of things and some things in general. Okay. Now, my good friend, who's actually I've never met him, and he's not a friend of mine. He's a guy, but Alan Greenspan. He pointed out that one of the principal roles of government, or important thing in our society, is this idea of, I'm going to use my chalkboard, an idea of property. Call it property rights. Property rights. Okay, property rights. Property rights. What does that mean? And how is it related to what I've been speaking about? Well, if you reflect back on a while back, I talked about this idea of more, and how the human quest for to fulfill our wants and to fulfill our needs is never ending, and it's always expanding, and that it creates this notion of more, where we want more, and we always want more. More is kind of like the gravity of the economy. It's what holds it together, and it's what keeps it going, is the reality that people want more. And when we get up in the morning, we're trying to get more. We want more. And it said that as long as your quest for more doesn't hurt your neighbor, or another human being, or doesn't hurt the world, doesn't hurt your neighbor's quest for enough. Like some people, are having difficulty finding sustenance for their basic needs, for food and such, and so as long as your quest for more isn't hurting their quest for sustenance, and that's fine. And now here, property rights. So this idea of more is, when you remove property rights from the equation, what happens is someone gets a crazy idea, and then first, worse than a crazy idea is a crazy idea that hurts people and is pursued. So one of these ideas is the removal of property rights. So when we have a community property, so a place where property rights have been removed is, well, property rights are removed in the Soviet Union, property rights are removed in Cuba, property rights are removed in other places. So if you go to Havana, or you go to the Soviet Union, when the Soviet Union existed, there was an absence of property rights, which that meant that when someone woke up in the morning and you think that what they'd be looking for is more, well, then they're realizing that why bother? It's the why bother. Why bother is the break. It's a stagnation. It stops people from questing more, and more is good, because property rights is what, the protection of ownership, the protection of property. Now I said that the government has a bigger kind of role that has a lot of abstractions in it, which is to maximize the well-being of everyone. But a surefire way to minimize the well-being of everyone is to remove property rights. And if we come over here and we remember our curve that I like to draw a bunch here, it's a production possibility, frontier, curve. I have different names for this thing. But over here, it's the people. Here's the stuff. So this is the set all the combinations of what you can build, what you can make with all the things you have and all the things that you know. And when I say all, I mean all. The totality of things that exist within your economy, exist within your nation, and really exist within and the planet Earth, and even beyond the planet Earth, let's say, to infinity and beyond. Somebody said that. Anyway, so that. Now, this idea that this is going to keep moving, you're always going to be able to produce more and more, is important, because some of the things that you can produce are things that were erstwhile unthought of. Let's take, for example, a simple example would be our this is your phone. I can do that better. Phone. Okay. Phone. Your phone. You reach in your pocket, you take out your phone. People call it a phone, but really it's a gateway to the compendium of human knowledge. It's amazing. So the first thing that we needed for, not the first thing, but one thing that's necessary for the phone to function as we consider our phone functioning is up here, satellites. Satellites. A lot of them. Satellites. In order for satellites to get going, what you needed to have was rocket science. Okay, we'll say rocket science. So the foundation of satellites is rocket science. Okay. Then the next sort of component is, speaking broadly in very vague terms, I understand. You have rocket science gets you the satellites. Then the science of telecommunication, understanding of radio waves, that gets you the capacity to have your little thing on the Earth. This is a badly drawn satellite dish. That's the Earth. That's communicating with the satellites. You think, okay, communicating with them by radio waves. And then at a certain point, someone said, well, that doesn't seem to be working, because you're getting some fuzz. Then someone else comes along and says, well, what if we had these other things? We'll call it this is a computer. So we have computers now. To get computers, you had to have a bunch of things happen. You had to have like the semiconductor industry, but long before the semiconductor industry, you had to have the quest for fundamental electric circuits, and one was the diode, the invention of a thing called the diode, and then the miniaturization thereof and such, and then you get a whole bunch of these things on there, and Now, before you got to that, you had to have, you might recall from your, let's say your junior high math class, had to have algebra. You think algebra? Algebra. What does that have to do with anything? Well, algebra, you think algebra is I was talking about algebra one day in school, and a teacher in the schoolyard came up to me and said, what is X? At the time I was reading, practicing my way through a book by a gentleman named Isaac Asimov, and the book was called The Realm of Algebra, and I was kind of fascinated by it. It was new to me at the time, and so then my teacher had mentioned to this other teacher that this guy's reading this book called Algebra, and so this teacher thought it'd be smart to come up to me in the schoolyard at recess and say, what is X? And I was like looking at her like she's crazy, because, well, I don't know. What's X? What's a donkey? What's a mule? X is just it's a name. It's a name you give to something that you're in quest for. Simon Cowell says the X Factor. They had a whole TV show about X Factor, but algebra. Okay, algebra. And algebra is a way of expressing ideas and quantifying this, communicating with the satellites and the computers and bringing it all together and creating for us useful things that we like, okay? Things that humans like and use. So when you take out your phone out of your pocket, a lot of people, you don't think that of the stuff that's underlying this phone, okay? That there's mineral science, there's material science, there's glass science, there's a whole bunch of things. Like if you go right now, let's just pick an arbitrary number. Let's say there's 1,000 people working on making the phones better, or making the science better. But those 1,000 people are each of them are standing on the shoulders of another 1,000 people, and each of those people are standing on the shoulders of another 1,000 people, and building upon knowledge that at the time it was discovered, or even before it was discovered, couldn't even imagine that when you're starting off with algebra, or even before algebra, with an abacus. This is a badly drawn abacus, the counting tool. You wouldn't think that you're going to go from algebra to abacus to Apple to phones, or if you're in this camp as I am, Google and the phones. And even the Google thing, well, geez, what a great idea that was. And it wasn't even an idea. I mean, this is the root of the Google idea. And you Googlers out there, you can correct me and leave a comment and explain. Oh, by the way, that comment thing. If you're somehow enjoying these kind of videos, hit the like button. Better yet, hit the subscribe button. And it'd be kind of neat if you left me some comments explaining how wrong I am. But where I'm going with this is the Google thing. Okay. Now, soup. When you make soup, in North America, or in Western cooking, there's a thing called, I think it's called mirepoix, which is carrots, onions, and celery. Okay, you take something that's gonna fire up your taste buds, called umami, like the fifth taste, whatever, and that comes from, say, boiling bones, and then you add to that carrots, onions, and celery, and you let that cook for a while, and then you have a broth, which is soup. There's a guy, Alex, he used to be called Alex, the French guy cooking, but now his videos are just called Alex, and you can go to Alex, and he talks about cooking quite a bit. I'll leave the cooking to the cooks. But the point here is that you're taking this stuff, and then let's imagine you walk into a kitchen and someone has made this, and you look into the pot, and you're saying, what's the good part? What's the good part? But you don't know anything. You've just come here from another world, and you're looking in there, and you say, what's the good part? Well, a naive person might look at the carrots, the celery, the onions, and the bones in there and say, that's the good part. And then so you dump the liquid out, you throw it away down the sink, and then you have this stuff and you eat it, and you think, oh, that's not too bad. Okay, but the good part is not the thing you realize. The good part is not the carrots, the onions, and the celery. The good part is the liquid. That's the stock. It's the essence. It's the foundation of what's it. The point is that it took humans a long time to realize what the good part was. And so you don't want to throw it away. Now, this Google thing, that has to do with that. Because the Google thing was, there used to be, before Google, you would study databases, say, and they would talk about indexes, right? So say you're going to give numbers to things, and my friend Charlie has just arrived. Hello, Charlie. Charlie is a cat. You give numbers to things, and you're going to say A, B, C, D, be indexed by numbers. So say like the phone book was an indexing, was indexed by alphabetization of the of people's names and the numbers. But the Google thing was this, is let's do this. When we're creating documents and we're creating data, what are we going to save? Well, let's save this. We're going to save everything. 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 We keep it all. Okay? And this idea of keeping it all is a big step, right? It ran contrary to the wisdom of 1970. Although we're talking about, I think it was like 1994 or something, but you can look it up. Anyway, I'm going to keep everything. And then this idea, well, what are we going to index on? Okay? What are we going to index? What will be the index? And well, let's take it one step further. we're going to keep everything. Well, let's index everything. Everything. Okay. So now if you take a simple word, like my friend Charlie just showed up. So Charlie, and Charlie happens to be a cat. Okay. So if we're looking for all the things that start with the letter C, then we're indexing on this. This is the index, the part that you save. And you say, well, let's save the next bit to the H and the A. Let's save index on the H and the A. The old way of thinking, 1970 way of thinking, this is it. The reason for this way of thinking is because this idea of scarcity and you only have so much. Okay, so they said, well, this idea of saving things in the computer memory or in the storage, which may have been tapes, it might have been floppy, magnetic type of storage, was limited. So let's only save let's save this, and then heck with it. Let's save this. Then the Google guy said, well, no, let's save it all. Okay, so here there's 5 letters here, and there's 3 letters here. And there's there's 6 unique letters, so that creates 6 unique indices. So let's have 6 indices for these 2 words. So if you happen to be looking for a word that has an I in it, or an E in it, or an L, or an A, or a T, you're good. You can find that. Further to that, let's index absolutely everything. Okay, so this is what happened with Google, is they said, well, let's just keep it all. Okay, and where am I going with this? What is the takeaway? Okay, the takeaway is that you don't know what's important, and in the bigger time scale of humanity, remember we did our number line across Canada, across North America, as representative of the age of the Earth and how long and are 4 inches or 2 inches, or there you go, we're talking about inches or centimeters, but you don't know. So let's keep it all. We'll save it for later. Now this idea of saving stuff can get a little out of hand, and the Collier brothers were a classic example of that. There were 2 brothers that lived in New York City, and they were the sort of well-documented hoarders, and they saved absolutely everything, and it became a real problem. They had something like 17 pianos in their apartment. But this idea of here we're going to index on absolutely everything, because that. But the point that I'm making here is that you go back to this idea of the production possibility curve, which is important, because this idea of indexing and this our knowledge is expanding, and so we don't know what's good. So in terms of knowledge, let's keep it all. And if someone's working feverishly, there's 8 billion people on the planet right now, and if we have one person that's working feverishly on one component of knowledge that's somehow going to be good for all of us, well, we will encourage that person's action, and we will be grateful to them for doing so. And if you may note, my name's Bruce. I'm in the forest, and now there's giant woodpeckers and blue jays flying around here. It's kind of cool. I'm not the best filmer. Oh yeah, it's not rocket science to say, hey, the production value of these videos is we're not leading the pack on that, but that's okay. Meanwhile, remember, property rights are important, because property rights is what gets us out of bed in the morning, because we want more. Okay, question more. There you go. So if you own stuff, you can own stuff, you can. That's good. It's ambition. Okay, and this idea of this production possibility curve, the role of government, that is vital and key. Okay, the role of government is to maximize the well-being of everyone in society. Okay. And then we talked about spaceships and Google. We talked about the cat, algebra. The point is, you don't know. You just don't know. You don't know the thing that's going to come in handy and be the thing that you need at the moment that you need it. I'm not encouraging indiscriminate hoarding, but if you see someone working on an idea, thank them. Say, keep it up, pursue that further, share. My wife participates in an activity and they have a motto. It's called CASE, C-A-S-E. It means copy and share everything, which is pretty good. If you look into a little bit deeper, especially what I've been talking about, it's a kind of a two-edged sword. But let's be optimistic. Oh, and by the way, kindness. If you can imbue your world with a little bit of kindness, go ahead. Meanwhile, my name's Bruce. This is my classroom in the forest. Today has been a bit of it might seem kind of random, but it's not as random as you think. And let it cook for a while. Meanwhile, thank you very much. Bye.